Fit, active, healthy, happy, enjoying the prime of your life. Looking out for your health and wellness, this is Health Talk with Fred Lowry from Lowry Drug in Statesville. Visit Fred at his store, conveniently located on Hartness Road in Statesville.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Health Talk. This is Fred Lowry, pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine. And we are pre-recorded for November the 7th, 2025. Here to explore the facets of your health and keep you up to date and informed. This program is intended to share knowledge and information based on my research and experience. It's not intended to offer individual advice, nor does it replace a one-on-one relationship with a qualified healthcare professional. Your daily choices are yours and have to do more with your health than anyone in the healthcare field. My hopes are that this show will empower you with knowledge to take a more proactive approach to your health. Some of my sources include, but are not limited to, various health news feeds, Epic Times, Mercola, Children's Health Defense, PubMed, and various Substack posts. Got a good show on for you today, I think. We're going to talk about many things, including the relationship of over-the-counter pain medications and antibiotics and problems with that. Popular pain medication, prescription pain medication, non-opioid, and some issues related to that. But first, I want to talk about an article I came across in Mercola and Mercola.com. I would encourage you to look at this because it has to do with how much we're on autopilot. And it's a curious subject because it really does impact how we make changes in our health. I ran across a concept a doctor presented one time called strategic living. And of course, obviously the strategy for your life and how you can make changes versus just perhaps going on automatic pilot. So, we wake up every day, we get up, we brush our teeth, we take a shower. Perhaps you're a little bleary-eyed, you're just basically on automatic pilot getting ready for the day. But as it turns out, a lot of the things we do are really not conscious choices, and we're running on basic habits. It's kind of a curious thing because I think many of us feel like we are masters of our life. We are making conscious choices about things, but perhaps that's not true. There's a groundbreaking international study that shows that most of our actions each day are not conscious at all. So I don't know what that means particularly, but in terms of the concept of consciousness, but basically we have a lot of habits that form what we do, and a lot of these habits are triggered by our environment. So the drawback here is your brain doesn't really distinguish between habits that may serve you and some that don't. We're programmed to repeat what's familiar. And that's a really interesting concept because our brain seeks out the things that our brain have always seeked out. And that could be related to foods, activities, relationships, all kinds of things. And so basically, if you think about it, the wiring of our brain is almost hardwired for all these things that we experience in life. This study was conducted by researchers from the University of Surrey, University of South Carolina, and Central Queensland University. They investigated one of the most overlooked forces shaping everyday life, and that's habit formation, whether it be positive or negative. This was published in Psychology and Health, and the goal was to determine or understand how much human behavior is consciously chosen, and how much we just operate on autopilot. There were a number of participants, most of them in the age of 35, and they assessed categories including what people were doing at a moment in time, education, child care, screen time, food, drink, relaxation, transportation, exercise, hobbies, and personal self-care. So in the study results was that the majority of the activities that you do every day are done without conscious control. One of the lead authors, Amanda Rebar, said that people like to think of themselves as rational decision makers who think carefully about what they do before they do it. However, much of our repetitive behavior is undertaken with a minimal forethought and is instead generated automatically by habit. So personal traits, apparently gender, age, marital status didn't matter. Jobs, habits were not really tied to personality. They are a universal part of how the brain operates. So that's pretty interesting. And they broke it down into a couple categories. One was habitual instigation, and the other one habitual execution. So we have habitual instigation, which is an environmental clue like a sound, a smell, or a visual reminder, which could be described as your phone vibrates so you pick it up. And the study found that 65% of our actions were reportedly in this category. Now, habitual execution is when the behavior itself unfolds smoothly without a conscious effort, such as driving. You get in the car and you're going to drive home, you're going to drive to work. You're on automatic pilot. You may have the intent of stopping somewhere on the way to your destination, only to find yourself that you've passed that spot. So, there's a lot of our behavior that is executed or happening just based on habit and conditioning, if you will. So there are some differences in understanding the different habits, and some are harder to maintain than others. As an example, exercise was one of the few behaviors that was habitually instigated. One of the few behaviors that is habitually instigated. So you don't have a cue that goes, "Hey, I'm going to go exercise." But you might end up deciding, "Okay, I'm going to go exercise." But once you get there, you have to actually consciously focus on following through with that. And so that could be an example of that. The findings of this study really have powerful implications for anyone that's trying to change their healthcare behaviors. And this is why I wanted to bring this up. This is so important in making changes in your life. So it shows that simply trying harder doesn't necessarily work, because willpower is not the driving force of daily actions. Long-term change depends on recognizing and reshaping these automatic patterns that are already guiding our behavior. So you can get into the intent or focus on a special purpose, perhaps a state of mind. You wanted to start exercising more. The key here may not be motivation. Stay tuned for more Health Talk. This is Fred Lowry. Welcome back to Health Talk. Talking about being on automatic pilot here and how we are going to maybe understand how we can change our habits into improving our health. So we were talking about intent, focusing on a purpose, living a more quality life perhaps. So if you want to start exercising more, you have to have consistency, linking a behavior to a specific cue, like walking right after lunch or going to the gym right after work. This helps your brain connect that time and that place to an action that becomes automatic. So you're basically replacing one thing for another. And I had heard it said that a bad habit, just say an addiction, is not something you necessarily quit. You just replace it with something better, something that's not taking from you. They also found out that 46% of actions were both habitually and aligned with conscious goals. So if you have a conscious goal, becoming conscious, that's the good news, because it means your brain is automatically or can be automated basically to make change. People often form habits that will support their intentions, such as cleaning up after a meal or preparing for work at the same time each day. So identifying challenges that may hinder one's progress is important. You can actually start to redirect your brain into things that are more productive. So your autopilot system can be an ally or an obstacle. One of the study's authors explained that while people may consciously want to do something, the actual initiation and performance of that behavior is often done without thinking. So it means that good habits can be a powerful way to make goals a reality. The study offers concrete examples on how to replace harmful habits. So an example, if you say stopping smoking, for instance, may not be enough just to avoid cigarettes. You need to disrupt the clues that trigger that behavior, avoiding social settings where smoking occurs, introducing new routines. Of course, that's a tough example for those of you that are still smokers. It's a product designed to be addictive, so it tweaks your brain chemistry for that. So once you've set up the right cues to improve your health or make changes, your brain will help sustain your new behaviors with minimal effort once this is all established. So even complex behaviors like exercise, meditating, eating mindfully, that's one that kind of interesting too, because I think a lot of us actually eat without conscious thought. It's just something that we do to go to the next activity or just get the fuel back in the tank. But mindful eating can be very important in terms of relaxation, digestion, etc. So once these new triggers are in place, you'll rely less on motivation and more on the automatic response. The research team summarized this idea perfectly by saying that our results indicate that almost all behaviors can be supported by habit, which in turn suggests that interventions can realistically seek to promote habit formation of any action to maintain change over time. And that's one of the things that happens in terms of change, is that changes in diet, can you maintain that? A lot of people can lose weight by changing their diet, but is it something that you can maintain? They also recommend that behavior change intervention should, as standard, incorporate strategies to encourage habit formation for new wanted behaviors while seeking to disrupt the unwanted habits that undermine change. So the purpose here, when you set out to create a positive habit, particularly one that may be related to sleep or nutrition, your internal autopilot will eventually take over and maintain the new habits. So there's a popular belief, it's a perfect example here. It takes 21 days to build a habit. I've heard that said many times, and I've actually said it myself, but the question is it really true? And they found out that it's not completely accurate. Some habits take longer to take hold. It can be an individual situation. The real numbers that they discovered was that the median time to develop a new habit was around 60 days, 2 months, while the average ranged from about 106 days to 154 days. So that's not to sound discouraging, but it just goes to show that this change in rewiring of the brain may take a little longer than you would like, perhaps, but it also maybe addresses some internal resilience that we'll talk about later. So part of the thing with the behavior is the complexity of that behavior also plays a role. So as an example, drinking a glass of water every morning could be a pretty easy habit, and it is a good habit to get started. But starting a consistent workout routine takes more time. Also, morning habits are easier to make happen than evening habits, likely due to cognitive function peaking early in the day. And there are fewer external distractions that disrupt routine formation. And I think everyone can relate to that. As the day goes on, there's plenty of distractions. So consistency is vital to making these habits stick. Doing the action at the same time each day can increase the probability of making it permanent. On the other hand, establishing a lasting habit becomes more difficult when the behavior is done inconsistently or at a different time of the day. So that's, I think, pretty important, particularly in the scheduling. So as an example with the exercise, if you have a set time, that's better. That's going to happen more likely than just random times when you just want to fill up some time. Realistic expectations are important, choosing habits that fit in your daily routine, allowing yourself to stumble without giving up. And that happens a lot of times in the addiction world. Is called relapse, but sometimes you have to keep trying to make things happen. But the bottom line is that habit formation actually depends a little less on willpower and more how behaviors are structured. So the suggestion here about reprogramming your brain, your brain does what's familiar, and obviously we know of things that don't serve us, that don't serve us. So this automatic living is somewhat convenient in many ways. We do get routine things done, but we can also pick up worse choices there. So the idea is to reshape your environment and train your mind to recognize triggers before they take over. The goal is not to eliminate the habits, but to make sure the automatic ones are helpful and not harmful. So you go into the retrain mode. So identify the cue triggers, cycles. Notice your actions, not just what you do, but what the cue is, the place, the feeling, the sound. Identify and write down the patterns for a few days. Once you know the triggers, for example, if your cue is a late night snack, maybe related to boredom, then you replace it with something else, like maybe an herbal tea or stretching. The goal is to take the same cue and pair it with a healthy routine. Let me repeat that. Take the same cue that is causing the action that may be negative, but pair it with something that's healthier, so your brain builds a new connection automatically. The environment makes a difference. You may need to put your workout clothes in a visible place. I can tell you that doesn't work for me. Healthy snacks where you see them first. The key there really is just don't buy snacks that are not good for you. That victory happens in the grocery store. Get off your phone during the meal. One of the terms I heard recently is cyber loafing, where people just burn up time looking on their phone, the internet, the YouTube. You have to assess if that's productive or not. Anchor new habits with existing routines. May be important to track your progress. They talk about a reward system here, but I think being successful is certainly a reward, particularly if you're seeing general improvement.
Doctor, my eyes have seen the years and the slow parade of fears without crying. Now I want to understand. I have done.
Welcome back to Health Talk. This is Fred Lowry, pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine. Lowry Drug on Statesville in Hartness Road. Established in 1959, we're a traditional family pharmacy with a state-of-the-art compounding laboratory. We offer a full line of medical equipment, supplies including CPAP, scooters, lift chairs, and oxygen. We also have a full line of supplements, nutritionals, herbs, essential oils, and homeopathics. Come see us. We're talking about making change in your life in terms of health choices, and this is vital for making improvement, and it is certainly possible. I mentioned commitment. Commitment is a powerful concept that involves a dedicated and unwavering effort to pursue a goal. So making a commitment is obviously key to this. And then having a little bit of resilience. Resilience is a great trait, positive trait that means that when you run into obstacles, you're going to just push through those. And I know there's varying degrees of that, but I'll tell you that as you improve your health, everything gets better. Your mental clarity, your ability to relate. There's so many things that can be improved. I ran across another article about over-the-counter painkillers and antibiotics. This is pretty interesting. It's amazing to me how we just keep learning things that it's almost like we in medicine we almost think that we already know all this stuff. We know so much and we know the answers, but we really don't. And the human body is so complex, and there's so many factors, and sometimes you don't know where to start. But when you're using drugs and in terms of over-the-counter painkillers, that can be a problem for many reasons. And so one of the things we've talked about is antibiotic resistance. Microbes get resistant to antibiotics. So you take an antibiotic to kill an infection. The antibiotic is not specific for that particular infection. Pardon me. And so it kills other organisms. Well, what you're doing is you're changing the body's terrain, the environment of the body. So when you kill that bacteria, it causes the release of whatever toxins or materials that might be related to that bacteria. That impacts things. But here's the interesting thing, is that over-the-counter painkillers actually promote antibiotic resistance. So obviously antibiotics are needed in some cases, if you have an overwhelming infection. An interesting concept that goes against all the things that we've been taught. We're told always finish your antibiotics so that your body won't get resistant. The concept is that we actually kill all that bacteria, and then if we kill it all, then it's not going to be able to change. But that's logically not correct. I had a doctor many years ago told me that his recommendation was to take the antibiotic until you knock the infection back and then stop. Because in his opinion, what happens is the longer you take the antibiotic, the more you create resistant bacteria. So as it turns out that over-the-counter painkillers, ibuprofen and acetaminophen, can turbocharge bacteria's ability to resist antibiotics. So instead of being wiped out, the bacteria adapts and becomes stronger, raising the risk of ordinary infections that will linger longer, maybe recur more often, or require more aggressive treatment. The danger is amplified when people take multiple medications. So each drug that's added creates another opportunity for the bacteria. So it's important to look beyond, a little bit beyond just antibiotic overuse. This was a paper related to antimicrobials and resistance. They examined how 9 non-antibiotic medications can affect bacteria when taking alongside of antibiotics. This included acetaminophen, ibuprofen, diclofenac, tramadol, and metformin. So as it turns out, the painkillers help bacteria adapt faster. They studied E. coli bacteria that's often the cause of a urinary tract infection, and found that when E. coli was exposed to ciprofloxacin, which is a common antibiotic, and combined with other drugs like acetaminophen and ibuprofen, that the bacteria didn't just survive, it adapted and multiplied. So this means if you're taking a painkiller while on antibiotics, your infection could become harder to treat. Is that not unbelievable? Here we go along and we just think, okay, we give an antibiotic, that's no problem. Oh, it's no problem to add Tylenol or ibuprofen. This is not an uncommon thing. So apparently the resistance levels spiked dramatically. The data showed that up to a 32-fold increase in resistance in some strains and combinations. So here you've got these numbers representing a massive leap in how bacteria learn how to dodge medications. So certain drug pairings produce the strongest effect. Ibuprofen and acetaminophen were two of the most common ones, or singled out as the most dangerous, especially when taken with ciprofloxacin. One of the black box warnings of these floxacin drugs is Achilles tendon rupture. So tendons, and if it's happening there, you could get micro tears in other tendons. So, that's particularly interesting, and it makes me wonder, what the mechanism of that is, and, could this be related at all? But the fact is, the bacteria exposed to the combinations didn't just resist the one drug, they also became resistant to other antibiotics. So that's a cross-resistance kind of phenomenon. So people that are older, maybe they're in residential care, are particularly vulnerable because they're all on a lot of medications. And so now we're creating a perfect environment for bacteria to become resistant. Antibiotics combined with these OTC painkillers, what you may be also creating is a situation that down the road that other bacteria won't be as treatable. So the interesting thing is the survival mechanism that works is basically like the pain relievers work like tiny little expulsion units inside the drug. So basically, the microbes push the antibiotics back before the drugs have a chance to do the damage. So once this system switch happens, the bacteria don't just survive, they become tougher. So the mutations locked resistance in place. So as these genes, these bacteria mutate, the genes mutate, the bacteria basically are rewriting their survival model. And so once this happens, antibiotics lose their edge, and now you've got a problem. So multiple antibiotics become less effective. Basically, the key takeaway here is that OTC pain medications with antibiotics at the same time is really a bad idea, and that it's a good idea to seek out other ways of dealing with pain during antibiotic use. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Health Talk. This is Fred Lowry, pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine. We're talking about over-the-counter medications and how that might change bacteria. Your bacteria flora has a tremendous impact on everything in your body, really, including your emotions, your digestion, your gut health, the way your brain works. Pretty incredible. So the question is, what would you do in terms of pain, discomfort when you're sick? And it's very common to take these pain relievers when you're sick. But keep in mind, what that does is suppresses your body's ability to process things. Now, none of us want to be uncomfortable, but the fact of the matter is sometimes you're going to be uncomfortable, and it doesn't mean that you don't seek out other means to deal with that. But there are things that can be helpful. Warm baths with Epsom salts, As far as pain relievers, as an example for joint problems, you can use castor oil, turmeric, curcumin, CBD oil can be helpful. There are a number of herbal remedies that can be helpful. Arnica as a homeopathic can be helpful. There's a lot of other possibilities that you can do, but they're not as convenient, and we've been trained to reach for the Tylenol, but I think it's probably a good idea to make a change in that, particularly in children. It's certainly a bad idea to use those products, and we had an episode a few weeks ago about fever in children and homeopathics. You might refer to that. As it turns out, when we talk about pain, the most maybe important and well-prescribed drug that has come across the prescription counter is now gabapentin. A lot of people have chronic pain, but gabapentin, for many of you may be familiar with that, but it has emerged as one of the largest prescription categories in the country. Apparently 70 million prescriptions each year is about maybe the fifth most common drug that is prescribed. It was originally used to treat epilepsy, and now it's used for a lot of other things, including neuropathic pain. So if you've been diagnosed with neuropathy, fibromyalgia, chronic back pain, and there's a nerve component, it's a good chance that you've been prescribed gabapentin. But some of the side effects of this, while the drug can be effective for some, there can be changes in memory, focus, and overall mental clarity over time. So, you're kind of looking in the long term here. The drug is designed to calm overactive nerve signals, also, and that's how the dulling of the mental sharpness happens. It's in the drug class of gabapentinoids. Lyrica or pregabalin is another one of those. It acts. It has a similar structure to something you may be familiar with, GABA, which is the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter. The chemical that calms the brain or slows down activity and inhibits transmission of electrical impulses. But this works not through that, but through the calcium channel on the receptors. And the problem with this is this particular receptor is heavily expressed in memory centers of the brain. So it's kind of a voltage, electrical, if you will, calcium channel in the nervous system that slows down the release of brain chemicals, neurotransmitters that are excitatory. So our company Pfizer, we're all familiar with and heard of, they came up with this drug, and they started driving a what we call an off-label prescribing campaign. Off-label means that it's promoted for use for things that was never approved, which is a very common thing in the world of medicine, but it wasn't legal for them to promote it as such. So they promoted it for migraines, anxiety, bipolar disorder, chronic pain, hot flashes. There was some negative legal issues related to that. They had about $1 billion fine, but the work had already been done to get the prescribers and thinking about using gabapentin. And, I must say, is it better than opioids? Yeah, sure. It doesn't mean that that's not a category that has use, but there's also an option here for people that take it to misuse it. And apparently, it kind of mimics opioids and benzodiazepines. So people have been abusing it, and henceforth it is reported as a controlled substance across the country. Now, here's one of the big things is that there was a study that basically tracked chronic use patients, chronic pain patients, and they demonstrated that over time, gabapentin was linked to a higher rate of cognitive decline. Patients that received more than 6 prescriptions of it had a 29% higher risk of developing dementia and an 85% risk of mild cognitive impairment compared with those that never took gabapentin. Young people apparently face the greatest risk, and they classified young people as 18 to 64, which I appreciate that. But anyway, gabapentin users had apparently more than double the risk of being dosed with dementia or mild cognitive impairment compared with controls. So the more prescriptions that you get, the greater the risk. So the good news is patients that receive this for maybe 3 to 5 times didn't really show a significant change in their cognitive function. But once they had the prescription 12 or more times, the number went up with a 40% higher risk of dementia, 65% risk of higher incident of mild cognitive impairment. So the chronic use is where that comes in. So, it's also what do you do about that? And, I mentioned some other things for pain management. But it's kind of an important thing. And, how do you balance this? You want relief of your pain and your nerve pain, which can be tremendously bad. And, there are things that you can do for that, particularly with nerve pain. Alpha lipoic acid has been shown, which is a fatty acid, to help with the myelin sheath. B complex vitamins play a role in that. Some people have used DMSO, and we had mentioned the concept of compounding melatonin in DMSO that one doctor told me worked pretty good for relieving neuropathic pain. There's so many things. PEMF, which is pulse electromagnetic field therapy. We have one of those devices at work, but originally designed to heal bones that had broken, but it adds energy to the area for healing. So it's good, and that's what it takes really for healing. And it seems that electrical impulses might be a problem for nerves in general, but my experience has been that people with peripheral neuropathy have gotten tremendous improvement with this PEMF device. It's a pulse system. You can look it up, PEMF. So there are things that can be done. A lot of these studies are out there. There was one from Taiwan that showed that there's a big link to these drugs and dementia. Large-scale study showed 45% increased dementia risk. The cumulative dose makes sense with anything. One of the other side effects other than cognitive issues is respiratory. Apparently the FDA in 2019 put out a warning about gabapentin's role in respiratory depression. So that can go along with other opioid use or any other depressants. sleepiness side effect, dizziness, slower thinking, loss of body coordination. There are plenty of negative side effects there in long-term use. More things to think about. Thank you for listening to Health Talk. I hope y'all have a great weekend this beautiful fall that we're having. Enjoy your weekend. Come see us at Lowry Drug.